Hello, YouTube. Alright, let's get on with this. Let's do this freak show. Alright, some guy got his junk mutilated. Um, and here's the thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't make fun of those, and I think most people will agree this is wrong, but still, there should be some outrage. You know, I mean, I'm not saying you can't joke about this, but there should be outrage. Like, it shouldn't just be, well, blah, 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 blah. If this was a girl who went into, or a female rather, who went into a hospital and had her breast cut off, or reduced, or given implants, or her labia trimmed, or hell, given a nose job she didn't want, or anything else, you people would be having a shit fit, and you wouldn't be making any jokes. And if someone made so much as a slightly comical comment over it, you would have a fit. But because it's a guy or he's male, all of a sudden it becomes funny. And by the way, there are some other people saying this. I went to one video at least that's a bit older. Some people are saying that on it. And some of the jokes are kind of like, yeah, it's funny, but you're still kind of like, well, that must really suck, whatever. They're kind of, at the same time, they're kind of, making joke. Okay, that's fine. But there are some people who are just joking, and like, it's not being, like, that should be seriously fucked up. Now, I would say sue, but I do think the guy did get a settlement. And all things considered, the guy was like 70 years old. I don't think he's fucking anyone anymore, but he was accidentally circumcised because he wanted some other operation and they ended up doing this. But he's 70 years old, so it's not like he's going to be fucking anyone. So he didn't really need the sensitivity at least. And he was given $1,000, and that's a hell of a lot better than what some people got. So, all things considered, it could be worse. But it still isn't funny, and it's still very fucked up. But with that being said, it's still better than what a lot of us got. And it also does beg the question from the other end. Here you have a 70-year-old man who didn't want to be circumcised, but was, and you give him $1,000 for that in compensation for being mutilated. Even though, I mean, some people might say you should get more. I'm not sure about that, but still, you give him $1,000 in compensation. But if a person is born and you mutilate their genitals against their will, and it can be done to older children, and some children are done that they have that done to them in America at an older age. I told you about a child named Chase, by the way, who was taken from his mother and mutilated because his father wanted him mutilated against his mother, what his mother wanted. His mother was put in jail and forced to sign fucking papers allowing that child to be mutilated. But you will mutilate, but the porn is rather, and that was a really cringeworthy story that was beyond disgusting that you really need to look up. Obviously, the mother is being emotionally devastated. She didn't want this done. And you're totally violating her rights as well if you're going to talk about parents' rights, because she didn't want that. And how in the hell this all happened, I don't know. Supposedly there was some other contractual agreement they had when he was born going into that about certain things he had control over. I don't know what it was. But certainly no one took, not only did they not consider the woman's opinion, they did not take the board's opinion into consideration. And he was a 6-year-old by the time he was mutilated. If it went through, and who knows, maybe they didn't. But from my understanding, he was. And it was a pretty disgusting story that happened. And it probably got some news coverage, so some people saw that, but it probably didn't get the news coverage it should. And again, not only were they not taking the mother's opinion into consideration, certainly no one took the board's opinion into consideration. Again, the now 6-year-old board into consideration. 6-year-old board's opinion into consideration. Do you think he's going to remember? I'm sure he will. This 70-year-old idiot, do you think he's going to remember? I'm sure this idiot will. But the point is, either way, regardless, it's really not fucking funny. But you give him $1,000, but when you're born, they mutilate your genitals, and you don't get any money. And I have heard of people suing the hospital later on. So I suppose that happens. I'm not sure how that works. If they win, I think they should. I don't think you have a right to mutilate someone's genitals. So that's just my opinion. But again, that's not funny. And with all the shit that people say are offensive, and how everyone gets offended, especially some females and feminist groups, for you to be offended by literally everything you see, you're constantly coming up with some new thing to be offended by. But then in events of shit like this, such events as this, you're acting as if though, don't be a snowflake when you're the biggest. You're such snowflakes, but then I can't be a snowflake when I'm offended by something. I don't have a right to say offended. No, if I think something's offensive and I'm going to think it's offended, I'm going to say I'm offended. I'm not going to say it's funny when it's not to me. And that's not to me. That's just not funny. Even if I wasn't offended, honestly, it wouldn't be funny. It's just stupid. But I am offended, and I don't like this. And I don't think people's genitals should be mutilated. I don't see the humor in that. But anyways, there's that. And again, at least this guy got $1,000 and he's 70 anyways. He got better than most of us. So let's see. Beyond that, and I spent way too much time talking about that, considering the fact I talked too much about genital mutilation, and considering the fact this wasn't even a child, but still, I wanted to say that. All right, now what was some of the more probably important news stories I could cover? All right, yeah, Joe Biden said something interesting recently, in a rather bizarre turn of events. And by the way, this is going to be two stories negative about Democrats. Not because I don't want to attack Republicans, and I've been doing that quite a bit, if you haven't noticed, and I would attack them here, but it's just that I don't see anything really about Republicans in the news as of today that I haven't covered or talked about already. And I haven't really kept up the news today, and I just saw two things I thought was interesting. I'm going to cover them, and they're really interesting. One of them is interesting because they're funny, and the other one's interested because, again, to me, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about certain people who call themselves liberal, but they're not liberal. But the first one is on Joe Biden, and I just have to say this about Biden, not even trying to attack him here. In fact, I'll kind of defend him a little bit, in fact. But he was talking about the shooting in El Paso, and this isn't about the El Paso shooting. That's just what he was talking about. I've talked enough about that. But this was about him saying we accept, I think it was, what is it? Unity over division. Okay, so far, if that sounds good, unity, not being divided, unity, unifying the people. I support that. I agree with that. I talk about that. That's nice. Science over, I forget what he said, science over fiction, I guess, maybe. I'm not sure about, yeah, science, very important. I use the scientific method. Logic and reason is a big part of my philosophy and what I believe in and who I am. And then he says we choose truth over facts. Now, obviously, you can't have truth without facts. I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, you can have the Christian truth, that kind of fact, but that's not much of a fucking fact. Or truth, rather, or whatever the fuck. This is all a bunch of nonsense anyways. But here's the thing. I don't think that was him pulling a 1984 type of George Orwell moment. This wasn't, that's not what I think this was. What I think this was is simply him being Biden. He does this before, and he's only getting older, and he's only doing more of that. So I think what he did was, because he also did the same thing when he was talking about, I think it was one of the shootings happened obviously in El Paso, and the other shooting that you didn't hear as much about, it happened in Dayton, Ohio, I think it was. So one was in El Paso, Texas, and the other was in Dayton, Ohio. And he got them confused, and let's see what he called them. What did he say they were? I don't know, I forget what the other one was. But anyways, he said one happened in Michigan, and there was no shooting in Michigan. For some reason I put Ohio here. I don't know why the hell I fucked that one up. Anyways, he said the shooting happened in Michigan. Now, of course, that's what I mean. I mean, that's not propaganda. That's just him fucking up the place where the shooting happened, So that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying I think he's just getting kind of old. So, I don't think he was trying to do a propaganda stunt on the people. Would be one of those propaganda moments. I think, this wasn't him pulling up some kind of propaganda stunt on the people. This was just him making a Joe Biden gap. This was just Joe Biden gap. This is Joe Biden being Joe Biden. So there's that, and then here's the final story I want to talk to you about, because I don't really have a lot to talk to you about tonight. I just want to get this video over with. I spent too much time talking about that first story. But anyways, Joe Biden, there was a leftist, I didn't get his name, catch the name, I don't care, but he said that Fox News should fire Joe Biden, not Joe Biden, rather, but Tucker Carlson. And here's the thing now, listen, rather, here's how he phrased it. Now, this is a joke, and I admit this is a joke, and that's obvious. But he said that they should, literally, they should set Tucker Carlson on fire. Now, obviously, that's a joke, and I'm not so much offended by that as I am the concept that you're going to offend Tucker Carlson. I mean, you're going to fire another Tucker Carlson because of what he said, and that goes back to what I'm talking about. Some people are too fucking offended because I listen to Tucker Carlson, and some of what he says, I absolutely disagree with. Some of it I don't disagree with. But he made some statements. He made a statement, rather, about white supremacy. Not saying it's not real. I don't think he's really saying it's not a problem at all. He's saying it's not a huge problem in that the majority of Americans are not racist or white supremacists. And I had talked about this before. Look, I am not a racist. I'm not a fucking white supremacist. I don't think the majority of people are. You have lots of fucking people in America who are not white supremacists. I don't think that's what the majority of people believe. You know, I think that you have a problem with it. I think it's in some ways it's gotten worse from what it used to be, but I don't think it's a huge problem. And I do, but I do, however, believe in some white privilege. And I have talked about that, but that's not really what we're talking about here. That's not part of the issue. But I do believe there is a little bit of white privilege out there. On the other hand, however, like I have talked about, I do not believe in any male privilege. Really, I just do not see male privilege. I don't believe in that. But I do believe there is some white privilege. But that's not the point here because that's not the topic. White privilege or male privilege is not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who are white supremacists and or white supremacy. And I personally just do not believe that to be a huge problem in America. I don't think I don't think the majority of people are white supremacists. And like Tucker Carlson said, you probably couldn't fit them all inside of a. You could fit about every white supremacist, every official member of a white supremacist group in the United States inside of a fucking college football arena. Now, that may sound like a lot, but you have to take in consideration there are many millions of fucking people. I'm not sure how many millions of people in America, the United States. I'm not sure how many. I know we're too much. I know about overpopulation and everything else, but there's too many fucking people in America and in the world. But the point is, rather, honestly, if you look at the larger amount of white supremacists, there's not that many in the United States. But again, to say that he should be fired for making that statement, even if you disagree, instead of to say, you know what, no, actually, you know what, you disagree. Okay, let's say you disagree with it. Well, okay, Tucker, you're an idiot. That's all you have to do. Just say you're an idiot and we disagree with you and white supremacy is a problem and you need to learn some facts and get your shit straight. Instead of doing that like a liberal would, if he was actually a liberal, well, he should be fired. Fox News should fire this man. So you mean they shouldn't allow free speech? They shouldn't allow a straying opinion, something subversive, like a malcontent might say, a divisive opinion, a different strain of thought. No, we shouldn't allow that. We should stick to the status quo. That's not liberal. That is literally against what liberalism is. I don't care if you like what the person is saying or you hate what the person is saying. And like I said, I might or might not really agree with them. I kind of do and kind of don't about that statement. But to say that he should be fired for that, and I mean, there are probably people. I mean, there are plenty of people who say all kinds of shit that should probably be fired from a lot of things. I haven't seen anything he's ever said that was so over the top, so disgusting. I think he should be fired for it. And I have seen things about like issues concerning transgender people. I don't agree with him on. I'm very pro transgender, and there are things I don't agree with the man on. But I wouldn't fire him. So that's not liberal, is my point. But anyways, don't mutilate your kids' junk and don't mutilate your kids' genitals. And I said, do not make sure do not mutilate your kids' genitals in P666.